I will just talk a little bit about myself before we begin the session. Um, I hope my slides are visible.
Yes, they are.
Done. Just minimize this. Yeah. So I am a brand designer and a creative strategist. I currently head design at a creative studio in Bangalore. It's called Brandemic. And I've studied design, so my background has been in BDS in visual communication, and I am a hardcore design student. And in college, I had a lot of, design principles, a lot of structure, textbook structure that we were taught about design and how to go about design in the real world. But I started interning at multiple places. I started freelancing at a very young age. And what the industry taught me, what the physical experience working with clients in real life taught me, was something very different uh, from what we were taught in college or what you learn in books or in tutorials, example like that. And my workshops also revolve around my experience and how I approach design projects, branding projects, packaging projects, etc. Yeah. Once
Awesome.
you're good to go with
Yeah,
the
100%. Thank you
power.
so much for the lovely intro. Also, now that the new people are here, guys, we have done a lot of stuff with Akshita. We just met Akshita this Sunday in our Roundtable Bangalore event. I was just asking before we started how was the experience there, and fingers crossed it was good, right? We all hope that. And all I'm giving all the whole stage to Akshita. Akshita, you can use the Zoom chat to interact with the people. And in the end, guys, hold your questions. Take as many questions down as possible, which can actually help you for the designathon. Akshita here has been instructed on what the problem statements are going to be about, and take out as, and you guys also know the domains, so you can ask questions revolving around the domains. But obviously, she won't give you the exact roadmap of this that you have to do, right? It's a designathon. Obviously, you all will apply your own creativity. All the best for this session also, and I'll see you in the end of the session. All the best, Akshita. All the best, people. Sit down with your notes and just listen very, very carefully. Cheers.
Done. So before we enter into the details of today's talk, I want to just give you a heads up of what you can expect for the next 1 hour at least. It is a branding related session. We are going to learn about what exactly brand positioning and storytelling is in any project. We're going to see how visual identities scale into becoming a full-fledged brand identity around any type of brand. I will also delve deep into what are the different types of logos, how you can actually choose which style is right for what the brand you're working at or what project you're working at. We're also looking at how we can develop brand stories and brand personalities um, that go beyond just the logo part of it. So this is what you can expect for the next 1 hour. Firstly, to start this session, I would like to clear out some basics first in terms of what these different words that are used mostly interchangeably around the creative space actually mean. So there are three different pillars to any brand. The first, of course, is the brand itself. It's what people feel about any business or service. The second part is branding. The branding is the strategic process of shaping any feeling that the user will feel. So, for example, Nike is a sportswear brand or a sportswear company that, and for Nike, the branding is that the Nike's tone of voice directly speaks to any sports person, any athlete, or any advertisements that you see out there for Nike, and how it actually speaks to the users that it is catering to, and the whole strategic process revolving around it, that is actually the branding pillar. And the last one and the most important bit that as any designer we focus on is the brand identity bit, which is the whole visual and verbal expression of any brand. So for Nike, it's the swoosh logo, it's the bold typography, it's the type of messaging that they put out with their taglines like just do it, for example. Um, so these are the three main pillars and the three main keywords you need to understand the meaning of. To make it a little simpler, I'd explain this through an analogy that I always explain it through, which is very simple to understand in terms of a real life application. So, the first one, if you consider brand as a house, the branding would be the interior design or the decor or the paint on the wall, the type of wallpaper print, for example. The brand strategy bit would be the architect's blueprint. How is the construction of the house? How many floors are there? What is the whole area around the house, etc. So to give this analogy as a real life analogy helps you understand uh, that these are three very separate things and very separate in terms of their understanding also that which we'll go through today. Firstly, we'll delve deep into what exactly brand positioning is, how it is used in projects, how it is used for any new brand, for any rebrand, etc. Um,
Akshita,
yeah,
can you check who's annotating on the screen? Like, do you see a line in the bottom of the screen on your?
I do, but
Can you
I'm
can
not
you
sure.
hover over it? We'll find the name of the person. I think
No,
there might be a setting on your share screen option to stop the annotations on top. Like there's a zoom panel, no, where it comes.
yeah,
Do you see it? Because I cannot do that from my end because you are the one who's like sharing the screen.
uh, no,
Yogesh, buddy, don't do that. I will remove you from the call. You can proceed. You can proceed. Yeah, yeah. Akshita, can you stop sharing and reshare?
one second.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, so we were at understanding what brand positioning actually means. And so, brand positioning is nothing but the space your brand occupies in the minds of the user or the consumer as compared to their competitors. It is not about being better, it's just about what is our differentiation factor that adds meaning to our user's life. So it's basically answering a one very basic question, that is, why does this brand exist? What is it exactly solving for the user? And this step is actually very crucial to define how the brand wants to be seen by the end user. It guides everything from your market strategies to your product offerings to actually ensure there is consistency across every touch point that the brand is available in. It could be a retail market shelf, it could be on a cart on Zepto, it could be an Amazon listing, it could be social media marketing or posts that you're putting out to ensure that your brand is consistently talking and behaving and visually there at the same consistent level. It's very important to do the brand positioning framework with the any brand or project that you're working with. And why this actually matters so much is because it influences the direct perception of how the brand is seen. It creates a preference in the user's mind. Preference in terms of why should I choose this particular brand over any other competitors that are there in the same market shelf, for example. The brand positioning also should justify the pricing the product or the service is playing at. And when we know all of these things very clearly, our decision making for color palettes, for messaging, for the type of logo, you will see will become much easier. And I, for example, answer these four very basic questions to define what a brand positioning is. The first thing I ask is, who is the audience for that brand? The second question is, what exact category the brand is in? Is it in healthcare? Is it in sports? Is it in D2C personal care, for example? What is that exact niche the brand is in? What is the exact audience that the brand or the product is catering to? And of course, what is the USP that we discussed? What makes this brand unique over the competitors is what defines the actual brand positioning bit. Now, when I say, second, when I say that the user is very important to define the brand positioning, these are some pillars that you can understand your user through or make your user personas through. If you've attended, for example, UI UX workshops before, you must have come across this term called ideal user persona or ICPs. Uh, and that actually carries forward into our branding exercises as well. Because to understand and identify the target consumer of any brand that we are working with, it's important to see what the demographics are in terms of their age group, in terms of where they come from. Are they from tier one cities? Are they Gen Zs? Are they millennials, etc.? Then comes their psychographic bit, where we want to understand what exactly is the behavioral nature of these users. Are these more Instagram friendly, digital media friendly people? Are they more physical friendly people? Do these people go shopping online first or to retail stores first? So those things come under psychographics and the behavioral traits that the user has. The next bit is the user goals. What exactly my user for this brand or this sector wants as a goal. So, for example, if it is a wellness brand, or for example, a brand selling protein bars, for example, uh, the user goal might be to have like a very clean label. For example, the whole truth, which has a very transparent, clean label that doesn't shy away from saying what my ingredients are, how is it made, etc. So that might be the user goal. The user challenge might be that the market right now is flooded with greenwashed healthy snacking products that don't really say what they are. If they say low sugar, they put stevia, for example. So the challenges might be the trust issue. And the motivation bit is how the brand actually differentiates, how the brand is motivating and coming over these challenges, providing these goals to this type of demographic of the audience. So when you identify these type of pillars, you also go deep into understanding what will actually work for those type of people, what will actually work for a market shelf in the competitor space. If I have my demographics and these goals and these challenges very aligned, my decision making, the type of colors that will work for these type of audiences, the type of fonts or the type of play in packaging, the type of taglines that my brand will have, those decisions become a lot easier because I understand my user a lot better now. Uh, uh, to give you an example, I have these two very distinct brands presented here. First one you'll see is Vera 91. You see that their target audience is urban millennials. Their category is beer. They have a very fun, playful Indian origin craft beer type of vibe. And you'll see that across their packaging. You'll see that across, for example, the events that they sponsor, the type of spaces that they're present in. Uh, because they understand the user a lot well. They also understand at the time that they came in how the beer competitor brands used to look like and how they could differentiate and disrupt the market by this type of brand positioning and style. Slurp Farm again is a very newish brand in D2C. They're targeting kids, they're targeting young parents, the categories in the healthy food space. They know their USP very well, is that they want nutritious fuzzy food. They want like a playful vibe. And you'll see that across, for example, how they play around with fonts in their packaging, how they do their advertisement on social medias as well. Just to give you a juxtaposition of how brands can look different if they know their user base really well. Coming back to what our brand personality now is, brand personality is another very important aspect before we start jumping into the visual identity bit and the designing bit. After you have a strong understanding about your users, about the product, about the market and competitors, is when you start defining your brand personality. Now, personality is nothing but thinking of your brand as a human. So, how will your brand talk, act, behave, even dress and perform? So, it's nothing but humanizing your brand a little bit and seeing how that actually drives your decision making when you're doing your fine tuning your color palette, fine tuning your logo sketches, etc. So, is somebody on unmute?
Let me check. Let me check. No, I think nobody can be on unmute.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Done. So, there are certain pillars that makes a brand personality so important. First is that it builds a very strong emotional connection with the user. If you, for example, hear a very playful brand out there with a very sassy and quirky tone of voice, it builds a very different type of emotional connection as compared to, for example, a very passive brand, like a luxury brand like Zara or H&M or these type of brands that are in fast fashion will have a very different emotional connection to a very fun and quirky brand. And what this does, it informs everything from your visual style to your tone of voice. Tone of voice is nothing but how your brand is talking to the user. What is the type of messaging voice that the brand has? Does it talk in a very serious and professional tone? Or does it talk in a very playful tone? Does it talk in a very caring and nurturing tone, for example? I'll show you examples of this also to help you connect with real life brands. And because my tone of voice and my brand characteristics is so clear, it will help me be consistent across all the platforms again. So, the only tip here would be to think of the brand as a human. How would you describe that human now? Is it a friendly human? Is it a caring human? Is it a very gesture type human, for example? And then start noting down the characteristics of how the human is now talking, dressing, example. Uh, these are, for example, the five main personality dimensions that I try to put down any brand that comes into. I either put them into either one of the buckets or a combination of one or two, depending on what the scale of the brand and the project is. The first one that you see has is called sincerity. So it will have a very honest, very wholesome, and very down to earth vibe and tone of voice. Some examples would be how Dove is or how Amul is. So, for example, Dove has a very heartwarming, down to earth, one personal type of vibe, which is very sincere in nature, very honest in nature. Even Amul does that through its advertisements and marketing collaterals. The second bit is the excitement, which has a tone of voice that is a little more energetic in nature, a little more active, a little more daring and playful. Something that does really well in terms of creating a hype around their products, creating like a community around their brand. Basically, creating some sort of hype and excitement is what this category is all about. The third one is competence. You will see a lot of healthcare brands here. You will see a lot of B2B SaaS brands here, a lot of corporate brands here, mostly because the tone of voice appears as more professional, more capable, more reliable. So, for example, Tata MG falls into this category where they are always reassuring the customer because it's a healthcare brand. It also needs to keep talking about how competent they are, how reliable they are, etc. The fourth bit is sophistication, where the tone of voice goes a little into the luxury bit, a more high status bit, more aspirational, elegant, and charming. So, for example, your Forest Essentials, Kama Ayurveda, all of those brands come into this category of playing to the aspirations of the user, and that is how they are positioned. And the third one, sorry, the fifth one and the last one is called ruggedness, or something which goes a little more tough, outdoor, a sort of rebel in type of positioning. For example, Wildcraft could be one of them, where even their products, their illustration style, the logo style, etc., has that rugged feel to it. So these are five main brand personality dimensions that you can play around with. When you put your brand or any project that you're creating into any one of them, uh, uh, all the decisions further will start becoming more decisive in nature rather than very random or rather than based on personal preferences or even client preferences. It'll start being backed by some research, being backed by some strategy. Uh, there is also a bit called brand essence. It might be called uh, brand story or brand positioning again in some of the lectures you might have attended, some tutorials you might have seen, or some person you might have seen talking. What this basically is the soul of the brand. What it basically says is uh, what my product or my service is beyond what I'm selling, and how you can actually understand brand essence and what it is exactly is seeing examples like, for example, Harley Davidson, we know sells motorbikes, but beyond that, it also sells a freedom emotion. It sells a feeling of freedom. When you come across any touch point of Harley Davidson, that is a feeling they want to evoke. That is the essence of their brand. For example, Coca-Cola, we know sells sodas, but their taglines, their campaigns also revolve around sharing and happiness, for example, and that is their core brand essence. And successful brands don't really deviate from this essence that is so instilled in everything that they do. Obviously, brand essence gets adapted to trends, get adapted to what's going on, gets adapted to new markets or new users. But the core essence or that particular feeling should always be consistent across anything that the brand does. For example, Nike is not just about selling shoes. They sell aspiration. They sell athletic inspiration, basically, to uh, anybody who comes across this brand. Even if it's not even a fitness enthusiast, if you come across a Nike advertisement, some of the videos that are there on YouTube, you will feel inspired to do something. And that is their whole point. That is their whole brand essence. So this was that bit. Now comes the main bit where we're talking about the visual identity. Now, when I say visual identity, it has a lot of other things except the logo. When it has the right type of color palette, it has the right type of choice in typography. It also goes beyond these three things into brand elements like your patterns, your illustration style, your photography style, even your brand iconography. And all of these things together make a visual identity for a brand. If you just leave a project at doing a logo, assigning a color, and leaving it at that, it will feel very incomplete. It will not feel scalable and dynamic in real life. So it's important to build a whole system around it with other brand elements as well. And how I go about after I have done all this research with the brand positioning, what my personality of the brand is, what the user is, etc. And before I start actually sketching logo concepts, is the mood boarding phase. And the mood boarding phase is very essential to align with the brief, the client, and the designer so that everybody's on the same page. Everybody has some sort of visual cues that they can align to pick and choose from. Um, because more often than not, clients are not visual people. They don't really know how this will play out in real life. And so mood board with some sort of these visual cues really help align the designer on any project or any brief, even the client align to the brief. In the mood board, it is very important to put references of a lot of things. We can put typography style references, we can put our color palette references, we can put layouts, packaging examples, even photography and illustration style references. And I'll show you, this was a mood board done earlier for example, a farm to table restaurant. And you'll see these multiple type of mood board directions that can be presented in a way. For example, the left one you'll see has a more clean, minimal, and geometric vibe, as compared to the right one, which has more organic, hand-drawn, earthy feel to it. Even if these are 4 or 5 images in each direction, it will just help you as a designer and the client to imagine what my brand might look like before you actually start designing.
Akshita, can you
Yeah.
reshare again?
Okay.
Yeah.
Hope is it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Uh, so coming after the mood board bit, when I have all these references gathered, I have the discussion with the client. He or she tells me that, I like these particular colors. I like this type of logo style. I like this type of illustration style. Is when you can go forward into now ideating and sketching your visual identity bit, which, for example, and the most important bit starts from the face of the brand, which is the logo. Now, a good logo has to do some things that will make it a good logo. For example, it should be very easily recognizable. It should be instantly recognizable and connected to the brand as soon as a user sees it. It should be scalable in terms of the size of it. Because if the logo has to be placed, for example, on a huge billboard or even scaled down to an app icon or a website fav icon, there should be scalability in our logo. It can't be too intricate that when scaled down to a website icon, it loses all its detail. For example, it has to be versatile in nature. It should work in black and white as well as color. Uh, for example, if the client prints a document with the logo on it, in a grayscale printer or a black and white printer, my logo cannot lose out all its detail or cannot lose out all its substance that was there. So it has to be versatile in nature and should work on both color and black and white. And it should be dynamic in nature, which I will show you what I exactly mean by that through some examples moving forward. Firstly, I will take you through what are the generic types of logos that are out there. Obviously, these days you will see some people mixing, matching also these type of breaking rules basically. But these were basically main pillars of types of identities that are out there in the design space right now. The first one and the most common one is a text-based logo. It's called a word mark, and you will see a lot of established brands, a lot of legacy brands use this type of logo. A lot of tech brands use this logo. People who have a very distinct name uh, often go towards wordmark logos. Uh, One syllable brand names that are a little unique, something like Swiggy, Zepto, Zomato, all of these were very new words to the market that nobody knew about. And you will see all of them have a wordmark logo as well. Because your name is memorable, it is going to stand out. And even if you put a wordmark logo, it will connect to the user. So that was main here. For wordmark, it's not really necessary that you just constrain to any font that you type out there and that becomes your wordmark. You can play around with customizing it, like the FedEx hidden arrow that is there that plays around with negative space, or the type of styling your lettering has also plays a very huge role in making it a custom wordmark to the brand. The next one is an initial base logo or a letter mark. So any brands with a very long name or a very long lettered name use this type of logo where they just initialize their whole brand name, because your full brand name is too long for a person to say it out loud multiple times. And here also, we can play around with the type of design aesthetic that we're bringing towards. Are we playing with negative space? Are we playing with gradients? Are we playing with the type of curving, kerning, etc.? Then comes the icon symbol type of logo, which is called the logo mark. It is nothing but a pictorial representation of the brand. It is mostly used for brands that want a very, very quick and instant recognition. And this is the best way to either go either abstract or very direct. So for example, Apple went direct. Airbnb went very abstract in nature, very story driven in nature, uh, around their brand positioning. And these were the type of logos I was telling you about, which needs to be very scalable also, that needs to work on black and white, color, and even scaled up and down in terms of size. These type of logos often over time create certain brand recall and recognition that even without the brand name, they still tell you what the brand it is. For example, if I see the McDonald's ka golden arches, I know just because of that shape that it's McDonald's, because it's built that over time. It's built the recognition over time. So these, if it's abstract, for example, it does take some years, some type of brand positioning to have that sort of brand recall and recognition with the user. This is the most common type of logo that you see out there, especially for any new coming brand, which is a combination mark, which is nothing but text and the icon put together. Which is very flexible for the brand. They can use it without the icon or the text. And the brand name is always there to provide better clarity. So if it's a new brand, it's always better to put the brand name out there so that it starts building some recall. And The next one is a character-based logo or a mascot, where very iconic brands like KFC, Duolingo, Amul have used these type of logos. It's majorly used for brandings that are going for a little more approachable vibe, who want to appear more as your friend, a fun personality, a very approachable image. This also helps the brand build a very strong tone of voice, because this character then will speak in the tone of voice with the user. And these mascots can have different expressions, they can have different actions, they can be, used across their retail, their campaigns, their digital as well as print merch as well. And that is why this type of logo is preferred with brands that want to be a little more active in the community, a little more brand story driven. This one is called the emblem type of logo. You would have seen a lot of universities use this, a lot of uh, football clubs, for example, use emblems. A lot of government institutions use this type of emblems, because mostly it's best for brands who want to appear a little more legacy driven, who want to have a very official or a traditional purpose, a very prestigious purpose, for example. So because mostly it gives the brand a very authoritative outlook. Um, but when you're designing emblems, it's very important, especially for digital use cases, to not make it too intricate, and so that the detail is not loosed out in any of the touch points that the brand puts this emblem at. When, for example, I talk about how I go about now generating logo ideas, I follow some of those things, but mostly I am a pen person, a pen pencil person first. I do sketching first, I write down keywords first, and then I do some small sketches and then convert it digitally. So for example, the first step could be you can list down a list of keywords or phrases that come to your mind as soon as you think about this brand now. Um, is it, for example, if it's that same protein bar that we're talking about, wellness comes to my mind, friendliness comes to my mind, health comes to my mind, mindfulness comes to my mind. So all these phrases and words I write down, and I sketch out these keywords visually now. How are these keywords being taken into the visual aspect now? How many ways can I symbolize, illustrate these 4 or 5 keywords that were on the top of my list? And then I start refining it. I start combining elements from a couple of them, etc., and then coming to the final word logo idea, the word mark. And uh, this is the exact process that I just talked about and how I go about it, where it is first sketching, then it is using space, for example, it's using negative spaces, it's using curving, it's using the type of shapes that I'm putting out there. I also, if you want to, for example, go beyond the direct visuals, if, for example, I say nature was the one keyword, and I want to not really go in the leaf route, for example, because a lot of nature driven logos use that. I would then start ideating on some concepts of abstract symbolism for their brand. That will again be aided and helped by all this earlier process that we've done for brand positioning, for the user research, where exactly the brand touchpoints are, and then start ideating around it. So there are also some framework that you can keep in mind at the back of your head while doing this exercise. Is also consider the length of your brand name. Is it a very short word? Is it a very long word? Is it something that I can break down into 2 or 3 lines? Is it something that I can break down into initials? So it's important to consider the actual length and the lettering of the brand name that you're designing for. The next is obviously the brand personality that we discussed. If it's, for example, a quirky brand, I would try out a mascot. If it's a very elegant brand, I would try out like a minimal word mark, for example. It also depends on the platform use cases. Not all brands will have an app icon, and for not every brand, I need to scale it down to a very small fav icon. So it's important to understand the scalability of the brand as well, which you will understand in discussion with the founder or the person that you're working with. What is their exact vision in terms of scalability of the brand? Next, that we discussed what my age of the user is. Is it a younger type of audience? Then I would go for a more symbolic or playful feel. If it's a very older audience, I would go for a classic feel. And longevity as well, in terms of if it's, for example, a product-based brand, it's important to know that they have a vision to launch more products in future, and my logo, identity, color palette will have to scale to other products as well. If the protein bar brand is now launching protein chips, is now launching peanut butter, for example, my identity has to scale to other future products as well. This is basically a cheat sheet that I have that I follow the similar process that I just told you about. I list down some brand keywords or phrases. I assign them some shapes. I assign them some very direct visual cues. I assign them how this word will actually look like if it was a type. And then I start assigning them abstract symbols. Uh, when I have this whole sheet of these visual small sketches ready is when I try to combine them into making a final word mark. Uh, Now, when you have your main or the primary logo ready, is when you should start thinking about how this logo or identity is now scalable in nature. By scalable, I mean it has to be modular in nature for the client to use as per the space, as per the touch point, as per the use case. Um, Across, for example, brand collaterals. If it's, for example, a letterhead, a visiting card, an envelope, or a poster. So it should be modular in nature for them to choose the type of logo variation. If you see down here, these are some of the basic type of logo variations that are out there. There is horizontal, there is top bottom, there is side by side, there's only the icon, etc. So that is how you can adapt your logo to not being and confined to just a very static looking thing, and it being a very playful, modular, dynamic identity. This is also kept in mind seeing any future needs, anticipating any future needs that the brand might have. And so that at that point of time, 2 years down the line, the client is not stuck with the identity that, oh, now I just have this one logo variation and I can't really scale it to other products or other touch points. So this is designed, kept in mind as per that right from the start. These are a few examples of what I was just talking about, of how the same identity, the same logo becomes a dynamic logo suit. So for example, you see Hyundai, you will see how there are multiple logo variations that are possible that they've given in the brand guidelines. You will also see how for Nike, for example, they have just the swoosh, they have just the Nike word mark, and they have a combination mark as well. Similarly, for quirky brands, for example, for Dunkin' Donuts, which had a pictorial mark, this is how that scales. Uh, the rightmost one, which is a more elegant type of example, is where you will see how this type of identity also scales into a dynamic logo suit, where I have a very highly detailed logo variation. I have structured seal type variations. I have horizontal, I have vertical, etc. So if you have, apart from your primary logo, if you have this sort of suit around your identity, it then becomes a very scalable type of thing to use across any touch point. Uh, I would take you through a couple of case studies here, some well-known brands, some not so well-known brands, make you understand how these brands are playing on their positionality bit, on the tone of voice that we just spoke about, in the touch point bit, etc. Um, Give me like a thumbs up if you know this brand first in the chat. Okay, some of you know it, some of you don't. So it is an oral care brand which basically took, for example, Pepsodent or Colgate heads on, saying that we are better in terms of our product innovation. Our product is so and so friendly, it doesn't have actives, etc., etc. So it is basically a better for you oral care brand. And they were very clear in terms of the target audience. They did not want to target 50 plus older senior citizens, or they didn't want to target below 7-year-old kids. They were very focused on Gen Z. They were focused on prioritizing their aesthetic first. So they had a very friendly, very quirky, very informative tone of voice. And you will see that in their packaging. You will see that in their sales ads. You will also see that across their products that are scaling now in the future. That essence is still maintained. And you will see that their personality is very clean. They're very trustworthy. They're very minimal. And even if you go after this call, search about this brand, you will see that being consistent through every touch point. Then there is this brand that I personally love, which is called Whole Truth. Uh, it is a healthy snacking brand. And they were very focused on the target audience, which is a fitness conscious urban consumer, particularly aged between 25, 30, that range. And how they exactly played out and disrupted the other protein bars that were out there at that time when they launched was they went very transparent with their packaging. They went very bold in terms of their claims. uh, so they have like a brand positioning that's 100% honest. It's no hidden facts, no hidden ingredients. They have a very sassy, cheeky type of tone of voice, and you will see that on their small details like their packaging, their website, their social media, the type of podcast that they put out, the type of founder story that they put out, um, to make you understand how it is consistent everywhere. Then, for example, if you were to delve a little more into the visual aspect of these brands, and why Coca-Cola taken as a case study here is, you see how the brand logo had this ribbon in their word mark, and how throughout their campaigns they take this ribbon and make it part of the campaign itself. They even scaled it down to vernacular languages. They are very consistent in the use of their bright red across all their campaigns, advertisement, social media, etc. And this same type of ribbon wave continues throughout whatever they do, uh, as a visual cue for you to understand how important it is for one aspect of the brand identity to be scalable in nature. We have Duolingo as an example, mostly for me to talk about how brand tone of voice works. Have any of you used the Duolingo app or seen their ads, for example? Yes. So if you've come across this app, you know how this character, which is Duo, actually talks to the user. It is very witty, it's very out there. It is like a spy that they've positioned this mascot as. And you will see this being played out in their notifications, in their pop-ups, in their website, in their app, in their real life marketing as well. Um So this one mostly to make you understand. Also, they use the green color everywhere consistently to make you understand how if you dominate a field which was very new, which was very saturated with something very unique like this, based on how your brand personality was, based on how this mascot actually talks to the user, is their whole brand recall value. Um, so this was one example of that. I've put Nike out there mostly to make you understand how it goes beyond just their logo and the swoosh mark and selling their clothes or their footwear, etc. The type of brand advertisements that they put out there, the type of videos that they put out there on YouTube, without even mentioning that we sell clothes or shoes, etc. The type of brand storytelling that they do, they are also very consistent in terms of their tone of voice. They are very motivational in nature. They're very social cause driven in some of the campaigns. You'll see the bold typography, the black and white feel, the saturated feel being very consistently played out throughout this brand's touch point. So now it's very important to understand that a great logo, and what makes a great logo isn't just about aesthetics. It is about choosing the right type of brand personality that you put your brand into that bucket, and aligning with the long-term vision of whoever started that brand, be it the founder, be it a family business, be it a rebrand, etc. So it's important for us as a designer to align with that long-term vision. If we want to see our design being played out in real life, in success, etc. So it's important to understand how this logo that I designed now is going to look like for the brand after 5 years. Uh, then I have just a few things I want to quickly run through. After you have all of these things sorted, we often get stuck into choosing the right type of font and color. And when you have your personality sorted, this should become a lot easier. But there is another way which you can, shortlist the fonts from your long list of font book, is defining what my brand vibe is from these three pillars. I do it like this scale. For example, which scale is it at from vintage to modern, or elegant to bold, or playful to serious? And I keep shortlisting my fonts as I answer these three questions, which usually lands me at about 5 to 6 fonts that then I play with and then select the final one. Uh, when it comes to choosing the colors, it is very important to also check for contrasts. There are a lot of online color contrast checkers that you can find where you can put in your hex codes and it checks your contrast based on if this color palette is cohesive in nature or not. It is also very important to check hex codes across CMYK and RGB both, because if this brand is going to scale into physical products like packaging labels, for example, that bright neon purple, when it comes to print, will get saturated. So it's important to choose the color codes very wisely, make those right decisions from the get-go. And it's important to not overcrowd the color palette. We don't really want to put the whole color wheel out there. We want to select our primary color tones. Obviously, we can give a secondary color palette or a tertiary color palette with another shades. But the primary tone should not be more than 4 to 5, and that is the max. And yes, so always in your brand guidelines, in your color palette, include the hex codes, include the CMYK code, include the Pantone code and the RGB code. Colors mostly have very personal connotations to it. We as a designer also might feel very biased towards certain colors that we like or don't like to use, or even don't like in our personal life. And even clients have come up to me saying, oh, this is the color that I hate personally and I don't want to use it in the brand. And this is the exact stage where you pull in your research about the users and say that this is the color that will work for the end user. So that is where it helps guide these decisions, etc. When I was saying that the brand identity goes beyond these three things that were logo, fonts, and colors, is these brand elements that add, a definition to it. Brand patterns, for example, add a lot of texture, add a lot of definition in packaging and social media, especially backgrounds, etc. Illustrations play a very huge role in brand storytelling because it reflects your tone of voice very directly. The type of strokes that you put, the type of gradients that you put, the type of grain that you put in your illustrations. Iconography, yes, because it makes the brand products very functional for them to showcase anywhere. Any stickers, any motifs, etc., that the brand can plug and pull anywhere that they're going. They can distribute it, for example, at any events. Uh, and typography sets. Apart from your brain primary word mark, what are the type of fonts that the brand can use throughout their website? So the website fonts need to be checked if they're web friendly or not. And what are the type of fonts that they can use in their print collaterals? So these are all elements of the same brand story, but they play very different scenes in the same brand. So this was what this was about. I also have a very basic template that you can, just screenshot or write about it. Where if you answer these four very basic questions in every quadrant, you should have your brand positioning and your strat sorted out. Um, this was it. I also have attached some resources that might help you with some mockups, with some free font selections, some color checkers, etc., some stock graphics. And we're going to send you this PDF. Vansh can forward it to you. But this was all that I had to present today. We can take up any questions that you might have in the
Yeah.
chat.
So now, thank you so much, Akshita.
Yeah.
Obviously, that goes without saying. Guys, you can now start asking your questions to Akshita in the chat. Akshita, you can keep them rapid
Yeah.
and try to answer as much as you can because we still have 10 minutes.
Done.
Yeah. Harshvardhan, don't ask questions which are not relevant to either the competition or branding sort of thingy. This is an opinion based question. Avoid those questions. How can yeah, Akshita, you can read.
Okay. Can we do a exercise on logo designing on a brand? Uh, what I would suggest people to do if you get stuck here mostly is start redesigning any brand. For example, for a different context, if I was to take Maggie, for example, and design it for a kids' party, how that changes my brand tone of voice, how that will change the brand logo. If I was to design Fanta for a luxury segment, how that would change. And if you start doing these quick exercises one every day, you'll get your hands on it much faster.
Okay, another Kuldeep. Can you like track down Akshita easily?
Yeah.
Yeah, done.
What is a mood board and how do we create it? So what I personally do is I start with like a blank canvas. Is either a Miro board, a FigJam board, Illustrator file, anything. And I start pulling out references from Google, from Pinterest, from Dribble, from Behance, from any brand that I might have seen in real life that might align with the type of direction I want to do. I gather all these references with colors, with the type of layout, the type of logos, the type of photography style, and I start putting them into these buckets. So these can be buckets, for example. One can be a very quirky bucket, one can be a clean bucket, one can be typography based, one can be illustration based, depending on what brand I'm working with. And that is how I make mood boards usually.
This is a very interesting question. Animesh is asking, in fast-paced environments like a designathon, where branding decisions need to be made quickly, what principles do you suggest we need to prioritize to ensure the logo design is not visually striking, but also communicates the brand's core values effectively within the limited time?
For this, especially when you are designing quickly for competitions, for any brief, etc., I would answer those four questions that I had just shown. What is the brand about? Who is it for? And why is it different? And the brand personality, basically, just those 4 5 keywords. And those should sort me out into deciding all the other visual identity decisions as well. Yes.
This is also an interesting question. Harsh is asking how to make something out of blank canvas, like knowing basics of Photoshop and Illustrator, but still don't know what to do for practice. I think for practice wala question, uh, it's as simple as you answered your own question. But I would like to rephrase this question because this can help a lot of people. How like what's your process like when you're like starting from when you are when the client gives you the brand brief, Akshita? वो
Mhm.
brand brief से how do you like what's your process of creating a logo? That will be much helpful.
So process was basically what I talked about today. I follow each and everything like a Bible before jumping into logo design. Uh, Subconsciously or consciously, these questions should pop up and start popping up in your mind about who my actual user is, how my brand actually talks about. And once these answers are actually sorted, is when you start sketching it out. I wouldn't say start from an Illustrator file, blank Illustrator file at the first go. I would say start with a blank piece of paper first, because personally, that is much easier for me to mood board or sketch out some ideas, brainstorm around it, etc. Yes.
You can take one more.
Yes, just going through. Is there any particular sequential way to show brand guidelines, or does it change from product to brand? Okay, so there are certain things that you include in the guideline. I won't say there is a sequence to it. If these 3 4 things, like your brand logo, how to use it, how what to not to do with the brand logo, your color palette with all these type of codes, your fonts with use cases involved, what is primary, what is secondary, what is tertiary, etc. If you cover all of these basic things, it doesn't matter what sequence it is presented in.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Before I let you go, do you have some tips for the people who are listening about the designathon and how, if you were participating, what will be some tips that you will give to these people?
I would say do present your points, but also see what brief you're working with and keep your personal biases aside and think about the actual user that you're designing for.
Yeah, I think this is like the mic drop thing that you did. I think that sums up everything. Thank you so much, Akshita. Everyone has found this session very helpful. I think this was one of the most helpful sessions for everyone for this competition because branding holds a very big like domain of this whole designathon, which is design fusion. Let's take a quick photo and we'll let you go, guys. Make sure to tag Akshita in every single story. Let me before we take a story, before we take a photo, let me quickly send her Insta once again. Please do follow her. She has taken time out of her full-time jobs and busy weekdays for you guys, right? All right, Akshita, are you ready?
Yeah.
Wait, let me. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys, for joining in. All the best. See you tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye bye.